The cold November wind bit through Alex Mercer's worn jacket as he hurried down the crowded streets of downtown Portland. The weight of his toddler son, Ethan, in his arms, made every step heavier, yet he moved with determination. Today was important. Today he had a meeting that could change everything. It was a rare opportunity for someone like him, a single dad juggling 2 jobs, endless bills, and sleepless nights. But life had a way of throwing curveballs, and he had already learned to duck, or sometimes, just take them full force. As he rounded a corner near the old coffee shop he often passed on his way to work, he noticed her. She was slumped on the curb, her manicured hands trembling, mascara streaked down her face. Her eyes were red, glassy, and utterly broken. Alex hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should intervene. Time was ticking. But something in her despair, something achingly familiar, pulled him forward. He knelt beside her and asked softly, "Hey, are you okay?" She flinched, like a wounded animal, but didn't answer. The city noise swirled around them, horns honking, people rushing by, but in that instant, everything felt muted, as if the world had narrowed to the space between them. Alex didn't know her, and she didn't know him. Yet he felt compelled to stay. He shifted Ethan slightly so the boy could see her, his tiny hand reaching out instinctively. The woman looked at him finally, and her lips quivered into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Hi," she whispered, her voice fragile, like it might break at any moment. Alex smiled gently. "I'm Alex, and this little guy is Ethan. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. Sometimes, it's okay just to sit." And sit they did. For what felt like hours, Alex didn't speak much. He simply offered warmth, shared silence, and let the city bustle around them. He didn't realize how much he needed this moment himself, how much he craved the human connection he'd been too busy to nurture in his relentless pursuit of survival. Before the story moves further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and small acts of humanity that can change lives, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Stories of Kindness. The woman finally spoke again, her voice trembling as she told him her name was Serafina Cole. She had the kind of elegance that seemed out of place on a curb, a sharp contrast to her current state. But her story wasn't about wealth or luxury, it was about loss. A sudden divorce, betrayals in business and personal life, and the unbearable loneliness of a world that rarely slows down for anyone. Alex listened. He shared pieces of his own life too, how he had lost his wife in a car accident 5 years ago, leaving him to raise Ethan alone. How he struggled every day to make ends meet, juggling his daytime warehouse job and nighttime delivery shifts. The more they spoke, the more Alex realized something profound. Pain, whether it came from loss, betrayal, or failure, connected people in ways riches and status never could. Hours passed unnoticed. Ethan, sensing the heaviness in the air, snuggled closer to Alex, occasionally offering Serafina a shy smile. It was a small gesture, but it sparked something in her, a glimmer of hope that maybe she wasn't as invisible as she felt. As evening approached, the streetlights flickered on, casting a warm glow over the wet pavement. Alex checked his watch anxiously. He was already late for his interview, and he could feel the familiar sting of failure creeping in. Yet something inside him resisted leaving. "Serafina," he said softly, "I've got to get going soon. But, you can come with me. We can grab a coffee or something warm. You don't have to face all this alone." She hesitated, then nodded, a faint tear escaping down her cheek. They walked together into the nearby cafe, a cozy little place with the smell of fresh pastries and roasted coffee beans. Serafina sat quietly, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup, staring at the condensation forming tiny rivers on the mug. Alex watched her, his heart aching with empathy. "You know," she said finally, almost whispering, "it's strange. I'm used to controlling everything, managing people, making decisions that affect millions. And here I am, completely powerless, crying on a stranger's shoulder. I don't even know your name. You do now, Alex said gently. Alex. And that little one's Ethan. And you don't have to control everything. Sometimes it's okay to just breathe. They laughed softly, a fragile moment of connection that felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. It was in that moment, as Serafina confided her fears, her losses, and her exhaustion, that Alex realized something astonishing. The woman he had been comforting wasn't just any woman. He had noticed the faint elegance of her attire, the subtle hints of wealth she tried to mask in public. She was a figure of influence, though he had no idea how deep her connections ran. And yet, in her most vulnerable moment, she was just human, just like him. Over the next few days, Alex and Serafina kept meeting. Sometimes by chance, sometimes deliberately. He never asked about her background, because it didn't matter. What mattered was the way she made him feel alive, the way her laughter, hesitant at first, gradually filled the emptiness he had been carrying for years. And he watched as she slowly began to regain herself, learning that trust could be offered, that kindness could be returned, and that the world, cruel as it often seemed, still held pockets of unexpected beauty. Then one evening, after Ethan had fallen asleep in his small apartment, Serafina invited Alex to dinner. Hesitant but curious, he accepted, not knowing that this night would change everything. The dinner was elegant but intimate, the kind of setting that spoke of wealth and comfort without arrogance. As they shared the meal, Serafina finally opened up about her life, how she was the heir to a multi-billion-dollar corporation, a position she had never sought but had inherited after the sudden death of her father. She had hidden it for years, living a double life that left her isolated and weary. The heartbreak, the loneliness, the constant pressure, it had all caught up with her in the weeks before Alex found her on that curb. Alex felt a mixture of awe and disbelief. Here was someone whose life seemed untouchable, yet in that moment, she was as fragile and human as anyone. He realized that wealth, power, and status couldn't protect someone from pain or loneliness. I wish I could have met you before all this, Serafina said quietly. Maybe I wouldn't have felt so invisible. Alex smiled, reaching for her hand. You weren't invisible. You just needed someone to see you as you really are. Over time, their bond deepened. Serafina, inspired by Alex's unwavering dedication to Ethan and the sacrifices he made as a single father, began to channel her resources not just for her own benefit but for acts of kindness she had long neglected. She helped families in need, started programs for single parents, and used her influence to create opportunities for those like Alex who were talented but struggling. Alex, in turn, found a sense of stability he had never known. He was able to pursue his career ambitions with her support, but more importantly, he felt seen, appreciated, and loved, not for what he could give, but for who he was. Ethan, once shy and wary, flourished in the warmth of their friendship, seeing a role model in Serafina and a loving protector in his father. One afternoon, as they sat together in the park watching Ethan play, Serafina turned to Alex with tears in her eyes. I don't know how to thank you, she said. You didn't see me as a billionaire or a CEO. You just saw me.